Hi everyone, I'm Steven and welcome to Marked by Wrestling. Let's talk about Wrestlemania. Now I know what you're thinking, but we're not talking about Wrestlemania 41 today. We're not even talking about Wrestlemania 42 today. Let's go big or go home and theorize, predict, and have a thought exercise about Wrestlemania 50. That's right, WrestleMania 50. I have lost my mind. There's absolutely no way to predict the landscape of professional wrestling, WWE specifically, 9 years from now. However, there's something peculiar about every 10 WrestleManias. WrestleManias 10, 20, 30, and 40, in a manner of speaking, all have the same ending. It's a major coronation of what is being put out to the WWE Universe as a new focal point superstar. Now, for a variety of reasons, some of those superstars sink, swim, other more long-standing faces of the company come in between those times. But at the end of WrestleMania, that last shot of WrestleMania 10, 20, 30, and 40, has always involved a big display of victory for a triumphing babyface or good guy, whatever terminology you want to use, overcoming the odds. It's almost always an underdog as well, and being victorious and sometimes being celebrated and surrounded by his peers. So we're going to look at all four of those instances today and try to learn from those WrestleManias to try and see if WrestleMania 50 produces the same outcome. And if we can learn from those past WrestleManias, might there already be clues as to who that conquering superstar could be 9 years from now? Now, to WrestleMania 10, where we get our first underdog conquering hero moment in Bret the Hitman Hart. It's actually the second time he's become WWF champion. He ties in the Royal Rumble with Lex Luger, and both Lex and Bret both get world title matches against then champion Yokozuna at WrestleMania 10. Lex Luger gets to go first, loses his match against Yokozuna due to Mr. Perfect being a less than fair special referee. And then Bret, who has lost to his brother in the opening match, Owen Hart, then goes on to face Yokozuna in the main event for the WWF title with special guest referee Rowdy Roddy Piper, who previously, 2 WrestleManias prior, faced Bret one-on-one for the Intercontinental title, where Bret defeated Roddy to be Intercontinental Champion again for the second time. Roddy is a more impartial referee than Mr. Perfect was, and Yokozuna goes on to lose the WWF Championship to Bret the Hitman Hart. Bret is crowned WWF Champion, and he is flanked by such friends and babyfaces on the roster as 2 future Hall of Famers, one the aforementioned Lex Luger, and Scott Hall, aka Razor Ramon, among others. So here's the thing. Bret, the 2-time WWF champion, the hero of the company, raised on people's shoulders, being celebrated 10 WrestleManias prior, or 10 years ago, in the first WrestleMania, he wasn't even with the company yet. Or at least he wasn't on the card. He shows up at WrestleMania 2 with his partner, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, when they were a part of the Hart Foundation. Bret was a tag team wrestler, and he was in a battle royal with such wrestling likes as Andre the Giant and also NFL stars, again going back to WWE's obsession with famous celebrities coming into their card. Now, Bret doesn't win the Battle Royal. Andre wins the Battle Royal. For once, a Giant actually wins. And Bret, at that time, tag team specialist, would go on to be a tag team champion and was beginning to wear a trademark element of his appearance, sunglasses, which the story goes that he wasn't fully confident in giving promos yet, so he would wear those sunglasses to be more confident in giving promos, and it worked out for him. He got much better as the years went on in his promos. So we have a shy tag team wrestler relegated to a battle royal, would go on to have a healthy tag career, get a singles run, and ultimately at WrestleMania 10 becomes WWF champion and has a coronation moment. Now, let's fast forward to WrestleMania 20. WrestleMania 20, once again, WrestleMania 1, 10, and 20, all taking place at Madison Square Garden. I really wish at WrestleMania 50 they could go back to Madison Square Garden, but I'm pretty confident those days are just long gone with the stadiums and these big, huge events WWE's putting on now. However, WrestleMania 20, the slogan, where it all begins again. This is going to be a little bit of a dicey discussion for some of you probably surrounding the events of the main event and all the history that has followed. But I need to make something clear. At Marked by Wrestling, when we're going to talk about wrestling history, we have to talk about the history. So I'm going to view these events in the vacuum of which they happened, and whether you choose to acknowledge those in the moment that they happened as celebratory moments, or whether those are soured for you, I totally respect that. But I'm just going to talk about these items as they were, and go from there. So WrestleMania 20, you actually have two world titles at this point. You have the WWE Championship held by Eddie Guerrero, who is defending against Kurt Angle, and then in the main event, you have the first time a triple threat match for the world title is happening at WrestleMania with three all-time great in-ring technicians and the two future leaders of WWE booking, Shawn Michaels and Triple H, against Royal Rumble winner and career journeyman Chris Benoit. Well, against all odds, Chris Benoit defeats both Shawn Michaels and Triple H to win the World Heavyweight Championship at the end of WrestleMania 20. And before all these terrible things happened in WrestleMania history, that singular moment of Benoit celebrating in the ring, he's posing on the ring post, and the camera pans as he comes down as Eddie Guerrero, who has successfully defended his title earlier in the night against Kurt Angle, is waiting for him in the ring. They stare each other down. Eddie slings the title over his shoulder and just begins giving Chris Benoit a standing ovation, which the crowd is also already doing. He joins in with them, and they embrace in the ring. Two lifelong friends who have been journeying through Japan and other countries, other territories together, and going through WCW, being disrespected as performers, saying you'll never be good enough, you're too small, nobody cares about that work rate stuff, you don't sell enough tickets, you don't have enough character, blah, 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 nobody wants to pay to see you. Here they are on the mountaintop at the main event of the most prestigious wrestling event in the world, closing out the show for what at the time was being branded as sort of a company reset. So these two world-traveled technicians, journeymen, who people had doubted, overlooked, thought that they couldn't draw, had the validation of not only their peers, but the fans. And at that time, on that night, was one of the most beautiful moments in wrestling history. Sadly and tragically, it would not stand the test of time due to what would come in the next 5 years even, or even less. So Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit, I alluded to their journeyman status, but what precisely were they doing in 1994 when Bret Hart was being hoisted onto the shoulders of Lex Luger and Scott Hall, among others, in the ring at WrestleMania 10? In 1994, Chris Benoit was touring the world. He was doing stints in Mexico and Australia. He had matches on record with Jerry Lawler and Terry Funk. And he ended the year in ECW, an upstart alternative company, facing the likes of Too Cold Scorpio, having in-ring bangers with crazy moves, and also facing hardcore legends like Sabu. Also in 1994, Eddie Guerrero spent some time in New Japan, where he competed in the Super Juniors tournament. So 10 years before their crowning moment at WrestleMania 20, Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit were world-traveling, top of their class in-ring workers, facing the likes of the best that the world had to offer at that time. Well, let's hit fast forward again, and we're saying goodbye to Madison Square Garden, and we're going to the Superdome, brother, for WrestleMania 30. And the Yes movement achieves its mountaintop. One of the most talked about WrestleManias for multiple reasons. We're not even talking about The Undertaker's streak being broken like it was at that show, but the crowning achievement of one Bryan Danielson, aka Daniel Bryan. Now, Daniel Bryan had been written off as, the storyline tells you, a B+ player from the authority in WWE, and Daniel Bryan ends up hijacking Monday Night Raw, along with the support of the WWE Universe, forces his way onto the WrestleMania card in a one-on-one match versus then authority figure Triple H, with the caveat that if he beats Triple H at WrestleMania, he will be added to what would be a triple threat match for the WWE Championship against Randy Orton and Batista in the main event of WrestleMania. Well, Daniel Bryan pulls off the miracle, as Michael Cole calls it, the miracle on Bourbon Street. He defeats Triple H and he defeats Randy Orton and Batista, and he is celebrating, holding both titles aloft in a confetti-filled Superdome to end WrestleMania 30. One of the best feel-good moments WWE has put on in quite some time at that point, and still stands the test of time to this day. But Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, what was he doing 10 years before he got to the WrestleMania main event? What was he doing in 2004? Well, in 2004, simply put, Bryan Danielson was what you might call a founding father of Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor, a storied promotion, albeit smaller, producing some of your favorite wrestlers today, getting their start in Ring of Honor, and he was one of the mainstays of that promotion in its early days. And in 2004 specifically, also wins the Survival of the Fittest tournament in Ring of Honor. So Bryan Danielson, synonymous with a company that is highly excelling on work rate, technicality, and also a place where some of the brightest and best future stars would be getting their first big exposure. And that brings us to the present, or the most recent present, of WrestleMania 40 last year in Philadelphia, where the crowning moment, the finishing of the story, Cody Rhodes ends a record title reign of Roman Reigns in the Bloodline and becomes WWE Champion in a highly emotional match, one of the most exciting WrestleMania main events of all time, a cameo fest of wrestlers interfering on one another's behalf in all-out war. But at the end of the night, Roman is on his back, Cody gets the cover, 1, 2, 3. He's able to present the WWE title to his mother, something that his father, the late great American Dream Dusty Rhodes, was never able to achieve on his own. And the ring is just swarms with friends and allies of Cody Rhodes, from eventually Triple H himself and Bruce Pritchard coming in, but even early on, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, CM Punk, LA Knight. The ring is full of people there. Cody is lifted up in one of the grandest celebrations. Even Samantha Irvin on commentary announcing the match was all choked up, trying to proclaim the new champion. It was just an excellent, emotional, special moment in time. But where was Cody Rhodes 10 years earlier? How did he get from there to here? Well, 10 years before, at WrestleMania 30, the American Nightmare, long before he became the American Nightmare, he was present at WrestleMania 30 in the first ever Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Also in 2014, he got to team with his brother, Goldust. And they actually started the year of 2014 as tag team champions, but would lose those titles at the Royal Rumble, and then have another tag match prior to WrestleMania at that pay-per-view. But at WrestleMania 30 itself, Cody Rhodes is just in the Battle Royal that adds a bunch of boys in the back into the ring so we can get more paychecks out. Not a lot of thought goes into it. Very unassuming, not very glamorous. But 10 years later, he's closing the show, and he is the focal point of the company. So we come now to the idea of WrestleMania 50. Listen, I would love it if they could do Madison Square Garden again. That's totally off the table. I'm sure it will be in some kind of a stadium. However, it would be highly interesting if WWE chooses to close WrestleMania 50 with another coronation moment. But who would be the central figure at that point? So this is where the fun imagination comes in. I want to look at all of the qualities that Bret Hart, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Daniel Bryan, and Cody Rhodes all possessed, and see if we can find anybody in wrestling that applies to now. So just for the purposes of this video, and this is going to be interactive because I want to hear your suggestions as well, I'm going to give you 3 names that I think could be plausible opportunities to be the next crowned champion. Now, these aren't locks, but again, this is a thought exercise. This is fun. So just have fun with me and let's do this, all right? First and foremost, couldn't help but notice that both Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit spent time in the Super Juniors tournament in New Japan. And lots of high-profile wrestlers have come through that system and done that. Those 2 champions, Eddie and Chris, competed in that tournament and also competed in smaller rival companies as well. They were both in WCW, they were both in ECW before coming to WWE. Who is someone who participated in the Super Juniors and also is known for their in-ring acumen and also maybe competes in a rival company? Ladies and gentlemen, one proposed theory for the crowning champion of WrestleMania 50 is the aerial assassin Will Ospreay. Listen, it's no secret that Will is one of the best wrestlers in the world right now, but he has not set foot in WWE, and I'm sure, and listen, there's no guarantee that he ever will. However, if he does, I think he knows he's got what it takes to succeed in WWE, and I'm sure WWE would see something special in him as well. If they could meet in the middle, I believe they could really put a rocket behind Will Ospreay, and it may not even take 9 years to get there, but he could definitely, with the right storytelling, with the right guidance of veterans, and with his own arsenal of talent, could be a crowning moment champion in WWE, should he choose to head that direction and should WWE choose to bring him in. Only time will tell. Next, coming up to Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, whatever you want to call him, being that founding father of Ring of Honor, being a core, staple, cornerstone of a promotion that prides itself on the best wrestling. Well, if you're paying any attention to the very obvious clues I'm dropping, you know I'm leaning towards AEW right now. Who in AEW, that is considered a pillar of that company, stands above all others and could have what it takes to not only succeed in WWE, but rise to the top of WWE? It's a short list in my opinion, and MJF is right at the top of it. The only thing is that MJF thrives so much more as a heel than he does as a babyface, but he has proven he can be effective as a babyface. So when the time is right, I do believe that MJF will jump ship to WWE one of these days. And when that happens, strap in, get locked and loaded, and get ready for some very entertaining storytelling. I think the sky is the limit for MJF in the right element, and WWE and MJF working together, assuming that they give him enough freedom, but also the right guardrails to point him to the right way of stardom within WWE's system, you know, he could easily be in that spot if they choose to take that direction with him. MJF, my second nomination for crowning moment champion of WrestleMania 50. And last but not least, I'm looking at Cody Rhodes and Bret the Hitman Hart, honestly, who is spending his time in a tag team, getting relegated to battle royals from time to time, but clearly could break out and have a solid solo career. I am not the first person to mention this man's name, and I won't be the last. I think there is a real opportunity to have a crowning championship moment for Montez Ford. One half of the Street Profits, he's already wearing shades all the time, much like early Hitman. He, beyond a shadow of a doubt, has proven he can go in the ring. He has the charisma to be a top guy. And even more recently, he and his tag team partner, Angelo Dawkins, are showing an edge to their characters and aggression that is needed to really thrive at the top level. And so I don't think, barring injury or anything like that, I don't think it's a matter of if, but it's a matter of when Montez Ford gets a solo run in WWE. And I really believe if they just look closely enough at him, they can see so much more and do so much more with him than what he's doing right now, or even what we think can be done. I think his potential is still very much untapped. So, to recap, WrestleMania 50, Marked by Wrestling, my suggestions to have a crowning championship moment at WrestleMania 50 is either Will Ospreay, MJF, or Montez Ford. Now it's your turn. Please, this is an engagement opportunity. I want you to leave a comment below. Think about it. Who do you think has the potential to be that next Bret Hart, that next Eddie or Chris, that next Bryan, that next Cody? To have that moment, to be lifted up on the shoulders of their peers, for the confetti to rain down, for an aging Michael Cole to proclaim, I love professional wrestling, because of what this person has contributed to the culture of professional wrestling in their work, in their charisma, and in this crowning moment that will be before our eyes. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for tolerating my little thought exercise. It's something I've wanted to do since I launched the channel. I've been very excited about the opportunity to think this through. I hope you guys had fun too. I really hope you guys think it over and let me know genuinely, who would you love to see be the face of WrestleMania 9 years from now? And whether it's someone who's currently in New Japan, who is relegated to Ring of Honor, AEW's Ring of Honor, who is in AEW right now, or who is maybe just on the undercard of WWE. I didn't even suggest any female wrestlers, and I would love to see if any of you think that there's any females who could be that crowning champion moment as well. So please leave your comments and suggestions below. Let's talk about this together. And remember, it is okay to be called a mark, because being a mark just means you believe, and believing makes wrestling better. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.